Landscape photography may sound easy because you're thinking that you're just going to grab the camera and head up in nature and do some awesome photography. Well, the problem is, even if it's easy to do, it offers some really big disappointments. There are all sorts of things that can go wrong. Maybe you're not in the right spot at the right time. Maybe the light is not that great. Maybe you don't have the proper lens, the proper tripod, or the proper filters. Or you didn't make the best composition. Or maybe you just don't know how to edit your photos to maximize their potential. So what can you do to improve your landscape photography? I have two sets of tips for you. The first set is related to the technical aspect of landscape photography, and the second one to the artistic value of a landscape photo. Tip number one, get used to get up really early. I mean, really early in the morning. You will have to get yourself accustomed to walk by yourself in nature, sometimes in darkness. But if you really can't go over this, you really can't enter the forest or the mountain during the darkness of the morning, then a walk around would be to photograph in the sunset. And even though you will also get to walk in the dark, the thing that it was light was sunset, and now your brain starts to get to be used to the darkness around you. Slowly, I think you can deal with this a lot more easier. Tip number two, you have to know your gear. You have to know how to set your camera, how to adjust settings, how to work with filters, and how to set up a composition using a tripod. It may sound obvious, but during my workshops I found that lots of people have problems, for example, to set up their camera quickly when a moment of light is happening, or they're not used to work with a tripod and they're becoming messy in their photography because they don't know, or they have this way of photographing when they're not during a workshop, when they're not using a tripod, and when they find it very difficult to think photographically and find a good composition. Tip number three, your images have to be sharp and clear, and to have this you need to do some technical things. First of all, you need to deactivate image stabilization if you're using a tripod. I also recommend using a tripod because this way you're going to have the ISO value of your camera to 100, and this will produce the minimum noise that your camera produces. Also, you need to learn where to focus, and learning where to focus depends on your subject, on how far the subject is, what is the aperture you're using, what is the distance between you and the subject, what is the distance between you and the first element that enters the frame, the sensor size, and of course how many millimeters you're using, so what's the focal length of your shot. Now the second type of tips are related to the artistic value of your landscape photography. So let's go. Tip number four, always know what your subject is. This is by far the most important tip that I can give you and that can improve your landscape photography. If you're going to have an answer to this question in all of your photos, what is your subject, then your photography will improve dramatically. Tip number five, when you are thinking about the composition that you're going to create in a photo, make sure that that composition supports only the subject that you have chosen. Now, if you're having trouble with landscape photography in terms of choosing the subject and creating a compelling composition to emphasize that subject, it may help you that I have an ebook this is shameless self-advertising. I have an ebook on sale. It's on my website. The link is on the description of this video. The ebook is about landscape photography, and it uses more than 50 case studies to illustrate my points and my concepts about landscape photography. Tip number six, learn to photograph what you see with your eyes, understand with your mind, and feel with your heart. And this means that you need to realize that what you see is not exactly what you're experiencing, and the reason for which you stopped in a place to photograph is because you felt something. Well, once you realize why do you stop there, and once you realize that the way you're finding scenes that you like depends a lot on your mood or state or emotions or state of mind, that is the moment when I think you will be able to start photographing according to how you feel, and you will start developing your own style. Tip number 7, edit according to your subject. I know a lot of people that are just opening Photoshop and Lightroom and they're just pulling the sliders without thinking of anything in particular. They're just increasing the contrast or the saturation. It's not necessarily the right approach, because once you establish a subject, you need to edit that photo in order to support that subject. Tip number 8, study the paintings of masters of landscape paintings, because it's going to be a lot more easier. It's going to be obvious what a good composition looks like. When you're a beginner photographer, you may tend to look at really big Instagram accounts and thinking that this is the way I should photograph. It's not always the case. I'm not saying everyone that has a big Instagram account is a poor photographer, but I'm saying that not all of them are great photographers, and their success on social media it doesn't necessarily depend on the quality of your photo. So study the painters. It's going to be a lot more obvious and easier for you to understand what you need to do with your landscape photography. And tip number 9, don't be lazy and take out your camera whenever you think you're seeing something interesting, because lots of photos can be missed just because you say, I don't feel like taking the camera, or I'm too tired to take out the camera and make the photo. So these were the 9 tips that I have for you in order for you to improve your landscape photography. Let me know if you want to add something, if you especially liked one of the tips. And also, if you want to improve your landscape photography, don't forget about my ebook or my workshops. The link is in the description of this video. And until next time, keep on photographing, because it's the only way that you can get better. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.